2 years ago, I fumbled around with a few coins and I uploaded a video. So what's changed since then? Well, yesterday morning I had an email congratulating me on 2 years on YouTube. And then sure enough, when I opened the YouTube studio, there was a little hooray note, a little cake emoji. Pretty exciting stuff. Now don't worry, I'm not going to make a video about my time on YouTube, but things have definitely changed in that 2 years that I think are worth mentioning. The first is my outlook on price for gold and silver over the short term going forward, and then the second is my thought on what to buy. So let's start with the price outlook. And to do that, I need to give a little bit of perspective. The spot price of gold was $1,570 on February 9th, 2020 when I uploaded my first video. Silver was $17.70. And if one thing seemed very clear to me at that time, again, early 2020, it was that the price of metals were about to go up. I pretty much had no question that was what was going to happen. And I made another purchase right about that time, but I wasn't rushing in to buy more to take advantage of a price jump. I was never going to flip it, but I did think that we were about to see that run. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I probably should have had a little bit more saved up so that I wouldn't be buying aggressively into a price run. So then fast forward to today, I think things are a lot different. Nothing is clear in the terms of price going forward. I do have a feeling that we're going to see prices staying inside a pretty narrow band for a while, but there are a lot of things that could change that. I don't think we're about to see another 30% price jump this year. I think the price that we're seeing right now is actually a very strong price for gold, but I do think that we have a very solid example of what happens to metals when we have crazy stuff going on in the economy. We don't have to speculate about that anymore. I know a lot of people think that the price of metals should have gone up higher and faster, but we had historic government intervention in 2020, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but we did avoid a pretty big catastrophe because of it, and those efforts mostly work against higher prices for metals. So that gets me to the second thing that I think has changed, and that is what to buy, or at least what I think is smart to buy. And I think that this is an important point to make because that is how I started the channel. 2 years ago, the economy was doing well, I was doing well, but the news was starting to focus on the virus. I had a feeling that a lot of people were going to be coming into precious metals and they weren't going to know what to buy. So that's what my first video was about, the best gold coin to buy. The idea was pretty simple. If you were new to gold and you didn't know what to buy, maybe I could save you a potentially expensive mistake. Now at that time in early 2020, retail interest just wasn't that high because gold had fallen off the 2011 highs and then traded sideways from mid-2013 to mid-2019. It wasn't like it is today, so you wanted to make sure that you had the most popular coins to avoid any potential issues selling. Again, this was if you were new to gold. And I'd still say that if you're brand new to gold, buy those Eagles, Buffaloes, Maple Leafs. Go for your hometown coins, whatever they happen to be. But the part that's changed, or at least the part that I have a different outlook on, is that I know that I can sell just about any modern bullion today. So can you, even if you're new to gold. As long as you don't go off the rails and grab that Homer Simpson coin, a local coin shop will pay you well for your gold. In early 2020, I thought that it was a lot more important to be careful about what you bought because of the years leading up to that point. Now today, it's more about what might happen in the future if retail interest in gold were to fall again. So it's about future liquidation hassle, especially if it's going to be your kids or your spouse doing the liquidating. Now, the reason that I think that this is important to bring up is that anyone who started buying gold after February of 2020 has probably experienced the idea that you can pretty much sell anything in this market. And that doesn't mean that there aren't important regional choices, but your Scrooge McDuck, yeah, you can probably sell it. But what the person might not realize is that these things move in cycles, and I can guarantee that your Buffalo will be the easier coin to sell down the road than your Scrooge, your Homer, Mandalorian, Wonder Woman, whatever theme coin just happened to speak to you in a moment of weakness. So knowing that retail interest in gold is very high right now and dealers have softened up dramatically on what they'll buy back, I've changed what I'm buying, and I think the list of coins that are safe for new buyers is a little bit longer. I wouldn't have put a Britannia on my list in early 2020, for instance, but it's a decent option today. And an example of what I'm buying, these Chinese myths and legends coins that I like so much right now, they would have seemed pretty obscure when the Dragon versus Phoenix was introduced in 2017. I just wouldn't have bought it. I didn't buy it. So I went from being very disciplined, really only buying 3 coins, Eagles, Buffaloes, and then Maple Leafs now and then, to buying series coins, commemoratives, and more. I know that I could easily sell any of the coins that I own today, but as I look back over the last 2 years, I'm not sure that all my purchases made sense. If we were to get some kind of lull in retail demand again, some of what I have would just be less liquid. I'll be really honest here for a minute. If I were to lose money on a fancy gold coin that I bought, I'll be okay with it. It wouldn't even probably be a surprise because I know going into some of these purchases that I'm making a potential mistake. So even though I know that I'm okay with the possible loss and I'm showing these coins, I still try to make the point that there are better options. So one other change in the outlook for me, I guess, is how I think about silver. And that's probably no surprise here, so I'll keep this one quick. I did make a few early videos about silver in 2020. I mentioned that the 10-ounce generic bars of silver had a better premium than a 1/10-ounce gold coin. I mentioned that I stopped buying silver because premiums had gotten out of hand, and then I mentioned trading silver for gold. And then I mentioned that in August of 2020, I sold my silver, I bought Ethereum. And then I even had a warning or 3 about silver squeezes, and I mentioned that I sold the last of my silver in May of 2021, the day of the second silver squeeze. Now, I don't buy precious metals hoping for investment style gains. I buy them as a savings pillar, but I learned pretty fast that nobody wanted to hear anything less than a moonshot for silver on YouTube, so I pretty much just stopped talking about it. And besides, I went from buying to holding to selling, and I'm not going to talk about something that I don't have. The change in my perspective was really just that silver and gold are different animals with premiums where they are. If you were to ignore those premiums, silver did pretty well in 2020. It shot up 50% where gold gained 30%. But for the record, gold had already started a run. It was up 15% year over year going into 2020. But again, silver did pretty well. That's if you weren't buying into the spike with 20 to 40% premiums. Now, if your experience with silver began in 2020, it might be a little bit like which gold coin to buy, since things inside that 2-year window have been pretty atypical. Now, it might even look like silver is an investment asset. YouTubers are definitely saying it is. And if you want to speculate with silver, go for it. But to me, it's never been more than a fallback or a savings. And in that regard, the premiums have just made it too expensive to serve that purpose for me. So stepping way back, I'd say that rather than focusing on the next 12 months like I was doing when I started in February 2020, I'm back to looking at this whole thing as a long game. I don't see gold, I don't see silver as something that's going to gain 30% or 50% every year. But I think 2020 was validation for everything that I've thought about precious metals, even silver if you can get around those premiums. Silver and gold both shot up, and I think that they would have gone a lot higher if we had actually run into the type of economic fallout that could have come from worldwide lockdowns. Things got pretty crazy, so I was happy to have some backup, and I think that I'm more sure of the benefit of having them today than I was any time prior to 2020. So far, I think we've dodged a bullet, at least in the short term, but it was a good reminder that crazy stuff can happen. So let's call it good there. Hit that like button if you found any of this interesting, and then let us know when you got started in gold and silver, or whether or not you're buying those Scrooge McDuck coins. I'm curious. And while you're there, make sure you're subscribed if you're into the topic of gold and silver. And if you're still here, thank you again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.